I'm Richard Gearhart, an intellectual property attorney specializing in patents, trademarks, and copyrights.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart, not an attorney, but I have my own startup.
Welcome to Passage to Profit, everyone, the road to entrepreneurship, where we talk with entrepreneurs, startups, and discuss the intellectual property that helps them flourish. And on our show today, we have Victoria Wieck. She's an HSN ShopHQ on-air guest, a jewelry designer, and also soon to be television star. So I'm very excited to talk with her about
And she's
that.
an author and a podcaster. Wow. And then we have Anita Swetman. So Anita is no ordinary girl, and you're going to find out why. Then we have,
I can't wait.
I'm sure you can. Then we have Andrew Strafaci with Cyndrom. Hey, if you're going to hang out at the Jersey Shore, you better look good. So that's what Andrew can help you with.
Or at least look better. Anyway, well, but before we get to our distinguished guests, I guess it's time for IP in the news. So Elizabeth, this was your idea. Why don't you kick it off?
Well, do you know somebody who's always late?
Are you addressing that to me?
I'm asking. Do you know somebody who's always late?
Well, we all know people who are always late.
Well, Apple thinks they have a solution.
But you were insinuating that I'm always late.
Not always.
Yes, you were insinuating
Apple
that.
has a solution. So they've been granted a patent application for a device that is kind of a combination of Google Maps and a reminder and an Apple product. It's used to relate electronic devices with touch sensitive displays, and it has systems and methods for generating, providing intelligent time to leave reminders.
So what does it actually do?
So if you are going to the Jersey Shore, say, to hang out with Andrew, and you're supposed to meet him at a bar at 7 p.m., then what you have to do is you put the bar address and the time you're supposed to be there in, and then it tells you when you have to leave to get there on time.
Wow. So is this issued as a patent?
Yes.
I will because I will say that even as a patent person who thinks everything can and should be patented, I'm a little unbelieved. I'm a little unsure how that could actually make it through the patent office.
It's called Systems and Methods for Generating and Providing Intelligent Time to Leave Reminders.
You know, I had an idea that was sort of like that, which I don't know if I should disclose on the show or not, because it's such a great idea. But, you know, lots of times when you take the train from New York to New Jersey, you want to fall asleep, but you need to be woken up before your stop. So I always thought it would be good to have a reminder on your phone that wakes you up, you know, like 2 or 3 minutes before you have to get off your.
Yes, we talked about it. We thought it could be GPS oriented, right?
Yeah.
So when your GPS tells you you're a stop away, it wakes you up. But we never did anything with it.
We never did anything with it. So it's time for Richard's Roundtable. And I'd like to ask our guests, what do you think about all of this reminder technology? Victoria, is this something that you would use or impose on those around you?
Probably not, because I have the opposite problem, which is I'm always like an hour early to everything. So is there a patent for that?
I'm the same way, Victoria. And we always have this argument about going to the airport. I'm like, I'd rather sit in the airport than be running for the plane at the last minute.
Yeah, well, because like it's so stressful to try to figure out, you know, like if the airport's going to be busy. It's one thing to get there, but then you don't know if it's going to be, you know, if there are like 50 delays or whatever, and the airport's like a zoo and it's going to take you an hour just to get through TSA.
Right.
So I'd rather just get there early. So I get there like 4 hours early.
Yeah, me too.
So I don't know. Yeah.
So
I probably wouldn't need, I'm not a procrastinator, so that's probably not something that applies to me. However, I do know a lot of people who are habitually late to everything. So
isn't that fun? It's like, well, so this invention is only going to apply to about half the population, right? Because you have the early arrivers and you have the late arrivers,
right?
So so that makes perfect sense. So,
well, Richard, you know, I just have one comment. I think that if you're somebody who is habitually late, you're probably, that device isn't going to help you.
Right.
you're still going to be late. That's my feeling. So.
I can just see me going and programming it on Richard's wrist and it going off and him going
Well,
for
that's
10
right,
minutes.
right.
That's true. She's like, we have to leave in 10 minutes. I have an automatic reminder here living with me and it still doesn't work, you know? So
He's getting a cup of coffee. He's looking for his shoes, his keys. It's like, no, we're supposed to leave in 10 minutes.
yeah, well, I wait for you sometimes too. So you're
Rarely.
not the only one. Okay. All right. Well, we have to go on. Andrew, what do you think about all of this technology?
I could absolutely use it. I juggle my small business with a full-time job, so bouncing back and forth. Can always use a reminder, and I come from a long line of people who are late to things. My parents, grandparents before them, so I could think of quite a few people that I could sign up for this app to constantly remind them that we need to leave in 10 minutes.
You could do some- well, yeah, it's like the more people involved, right? The harder it is to get everybody to go, right? So
I think I've asked Richard before, what does the word leave mean to you? Or what does the word I'm ready mean to you?
Yeah.
It obviously means different things to both of us.
yes. I'm being ready to leave means that I can leave in the foreseeable future within the next 5 to 10 minutes, right? As opposed to like, I'm in the car waiting,
Okay.
right? So,
Yes, let's move on.
all right.
Get Anita in here.
Oh, yeah, well, okay. I was just kind of jumping around.
Oh,
Anita,
okay.
you probably have an opinion on the subject.
Well, actually, I do. I personally wouldn't have one myself because, like this show today, I got prepared last night for it. And my clients in my business, I messaged them like a week before, reminding them of their appointments. But my husband would probably say differently because you're always waiting for me.
Wow.
Well, you know what I've started doing is every morning I get up and I go to my phone and I set an alarm for every meeting that I've got during the day, because if I don't do that, I forget what I'm doing and I miss the meeting. So that's helped
That's
me out.
good.
You know, I don't know. I don't use an Apple phone, but so I don't know if they could sue me for using that technique based
Probably
on this
not.
patent.
I
but
don't think
anyway.
so. Me.
All right, Kenya, now it's your turn.
Yeah, so I think for me, it would be helpful because I often get involved in a project and I'm like working, and then I will like forget to get up to go to the next thing. So I think for me, not in terms of being late, but utilizing time a little bit more efficiently. Like, so when it's time to get up and go to the next thing, a little reminder never hurts. So
See, Kenya has an open mind, so she's
Yeah.
open to new technologies and improving the way she's doing things and making things efficient.
I wonder if it would change if there was an accident on the parkway, say. Because like we went
On
to an
the day
event.
of, yeah.
Yeah, the day of, because we went to an event a few months ago and it took us 2 hours to drive 40 minutes. And then we went Sunday to the same place. It took us 40 minutes.
Right.
And that would be really helpful.
Well, if you're living in the New York, New Jersey area, I mean, those things are just a fact of life. Remember, we went to the
Right.
Elton John concert
Oh,
and we left 2 hours early. That was at MetLife Stadium and we just barely got there on time.
there was an accident.
There was an
yeah.
accident. So,
So, okay.
all right. Well, that was kind of fun, everyone. Thank you for,
I'm dying to hear about Victoria's new venture.
okay. We're dying to hear about your new venture, Victoria. So why don't you tell us about it?
Well, first off, since we spoke last, I wrote my book, $1 Million Passions. I think when I first came on your show, it finally got sold to a medium-sized publisher named Roman and Little.
Mm.
And so it'll be finally published like in hardcover and hopefully audiobooks next year in 2023. Middle
Well,
of
that's
2023. So
that's really great.
Yeah, that was a huge accomplishment. And then I was on a pretty big show. In fact, I think it's the #1 show in America involving boats, but I can't actually blurt it out because per contract, they don't want you to say anything or publicize it until the episode actually airs. So that's what's happening. And then in terms of my TV show, I'm actually leaving right after this show, my show with you, to the airport for my monthly show out there in ShopHQ. So I was just recently told by someone, and I had to kind of verify that I have been on TV longer than any other personality on shopping networks in the United States. So this is my
Wow.
25th year,
Wow.
nonstop every month for 25 years. So
Wow, that's great. Well, you must have it down by now, right? Do you still get the butterflies when you go on air?
the going on air, when I first went on air, live TV, I had no idea what camera to look at. There's like 6 of them, and then producers talking to you like in your ear while you were talking to the host, and and you got somebody's telling. So I was very, very nervous. I mean, in fact, I threw up every time I had to go on air for like the first year. Now I don't
Wow.
have that, but what I do have is the anxiety over whether or not my customers would like my new collections.
Right.
So, like you take I mean, Andrew is in the business, so when you really believe it, you love it, and you think your customers will love it, you get all excited. And then there are some things that like really hit it like magic, and it's just there's nothing that describes how incredible that is. And then there are some things that you really believe that based on their buying habits that they would just love it, and then it just bombs. And you still have them.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't hit it every time. So that's
Right.
tough.
It
Yeah.
is hard to predict. I want to go back to what you first said, though. Have you ever missed an episode? Have you ever missed a taping?
No.
No.
So that's going back to the original discussion about patents and all that. In 25 years, it's live shows. All of my stuff is live. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've had things like strep throat, pink eye. In the 25 years, this is every month, and I'm on like massive number of hours. And don't forget, there's 2 hours of pre-production meetings for every hour that you're on. So when I get sick like that, I mean, I'll let them know, hey, I think I'm sick, whatever. They would actually have a doctor or a dentist or whatever I need on the set, and not be completely isolated from the rest of the crew, so that they can actually zoom you in. But I mean, I've never missed a show ever,
So I
not
really
even at
feel,
6 o'clock or any other time.
yeah, I really feel like that's the key to your success, right?
Persistence, yeah, you gotta,
Persistence, showing
yeah,
up, doing what you say you're going to do.
right.
And even every week doing I mean, that's kind of hard to maintain. For a
And
long
It
time.
preparation
is.
too.
You
Yeah,
have to.
like before I go on the show, on a TV network, we are judged on dollars per minute. So you have to do, anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 per minute that you're on every single minute. Okay, and you got to average that out on an annualized basis. So if you're on at 6 o'clock in the morning and nobody's watching you versus prime time, most people who they don't get prime time, so it's hard to reach those numbers. But when you have to do those numbers, and they will literally find any reason to take you off if you don't hit those numbers. So it's just really massive amount of homework that you got to do. You got to have the stuff right, and then how you connect with the audience. Like if I come on and I talk about myself, like, it was really great last week. It was raining in San Diego, whatever. I would chew up 5 minutes of time without generating any sales, right? At the same time, though, if you keep on just talking about your sale, like just pushing products all the time, they just turn you off. So it's
Right.
that balance of, trying to weave in that amazing story, why it's relevant to their lives, why they need it now, even though I'm really selling jewelry, which nobody needs to eat or anything, but.
Wow.
So yeah, but persistence really matters, I think.
Well, I really love, first of all, you make it seem so easy when you're on. And I don't think people really appreciate everything that goes into doing business this way. And I really appreciate, some of the insights. And what is also interesting is that even though you've sold hundreds of millions of dollars of jewelry, you still don't know what's going to work or what's not going to work, right?
Oh, you never do. Yeah.
And and so you just have to kind of be a grown up and kind of live with that, I guess, as best you can. And you make it seem so easy, but it's also sounds like some pressure too. So
Oh my God, the pressure is like a pressure cooker when you're on there, It's awful. But I think going back to that, the only other thing I would say is that when I have a bad show, in that environment where you have to do so many $1,000 a minute and you don't meet it and you're going to get taken off or whatever, there's a tendency to blame everybody else. There's a tendency to blame, oh my God, I had a horrible show host, or, the camera crew didn't know how to shoot my jewelry, to, there was a Super Bowl on, whatever, programming people, got me on competing with Britney Spears or whoever. What I do is I say to myself, okay, all those things could have happened, but what is it about? Because I believe if I have what they want, they'll buy it. They'll find a way to buy it. That's been true. So what is it about that show? If I was up against Super Bowl, I would lose the first 15 minutes of momentum or whatever, but I still have the rest of the day to make up for it. So what is it that I could have done differently so that I could improve myself if I ended up at another network, or if I had to kind of like find a way to do business on my own? And I think that improvement part, every once in a while, I feel like God gives me these bombs so I can just kind of retool myself and evolve. So that, is.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, in the past when we've talked with each other, your determination has always come through. And I think one takeaway here is how you execute consistently. The other part of it, though, true, is you have to constantly reevaluate what you're
Right.
doing, because the world changes, the parameters change, the economy changes, and you have to make sure that if something starts to go out of whack, you got to get on it right away before it becomes a bigger problem. But still, I mean, they've had you on a lot, so I'm sure the networks have enormous amounts of confidence in you and your ability to hit those sales figures, right? So how much of that is putting pressure on yourself, and how much of that is, do you really feel realistically is, external pressure from the networks?
I think there's both. I think for me, you're right. If I wanted to go to another network or, whoever, I think there is not a lot of respect from people inside those networks of what I've done consistently for the last 25 years.
Right.
But I think for me, if you make it about your customer, if you make it about who buys your stuff, who's attracted to you, then the evolution becomes very easy, because they kind of have a way to tell you, like with their wallets. For example, if I'm on TV tomorrow, I'm on TV tomorrow morning and evening. If I'll get a pretty good read on what they're buying. If they're buying, things that are more affordable. If there's a common thread that says, everything under, let's say $150, everything over that isn't selling, it's telling me that, they're not seeing that perceived value over that price. Like, money is hard. If they're buying mostly pastels, in the autumn season, we're supposed to be selling, for example, like a lot of amber colors, stuff like that. And yet they're still buying pastels. I got to listen to that. I can't go, I wonder, are these people crazy? And if I,
Well, we're only going to sell ambers because
yeah, right. Like, we've always done it before like that, so you have to have an open mind, and you have to learn to listen and make your customer relevant to what you do. And if you do that, then it becomes easier to talk to them about it. And you might actually go on and say, you know what, last time when I was here, you guys bought all my pinks and all my, pastel yellows. And that surprised me, but thank you for that, info. And here's are some new pastels. Now, they may not buy that either, who knows, but you have to be really open-minded to what they're telling you. And then I think it becomes easier. So
That's really smart.
yeah, we have to take a break now for a commercial, but being with Victoria Wieck is an education in and of itself. And well, thank you so much. We'll be back with some more questions for you right after this.
Well, welcome back, listeners. You are listening to Passage to Profit, Road to Entrepreneurship with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. And our special guest today, Victoria Wieck, who sells jewelry on HSN and ShopHQ and has been doing it longer than anybody else. So there is something really magic about this jewelry. And we've just been talking to her, but now we are going to finish the discussion, and we are going to have Kenya Gibson chime in with questions or comments for Victoria.
So Victoria, good to see you again. Just a question about TV and being on air. Like, what was your most challenging moment on TV while being live, and how were you able to overcome that?
Oh my gosh. So one year I had the honor of sort of carrying the Today's Special Value on HSN. I'm currently on ShopHQ, but on HSN is huge. It sets the tone of the day. You know, you got to do like a couple of $1 million on that day of just your product. So it was a huge day. And that was the only day that I couldn't actually physically get out of bed. And I was in a lot of pain. I had no idea what was going on. Turns out I needed a root canal, and I had been working that whole weekend there in Florida. I had a decision to, either go home because it was really painful, go home or figure out something to do. So one of the top honchos over there knew somebody, and on Thanksgiving weekend, they had a dentist on my set. And every 10 minutes, they would cut the mic. Like this means cut the mic. They cut the mic, and they would put like an ointment on my tooth. And this went on for like 9 hours, on and off.
You are one tough
Wow.
lady, I gotta say.
Yeah. Because the ointment only lasts you for like 10 minutes, right? Before it starts, because you're kind of talking and eating and, saliva. So by the end of the day, I actually got sick from eating all that ointment because you have no way of doing this. So the next day, basically when it was over, the guy told me I can either pull the tooth out, or you can go home. I can give you a painkiller that you can take once you get on the plane. You'll probably be asleep the whole time. So that's what I ended up doing. But yeah, that was pretty rough. But the good news is on that day, even with that, I still met goal, plus did like another $1 million over and above goal on that day. So apparently I needed to be sick to be.
Wow.
Well, so,
yeah.
we try to educate entrepreneurs some with this show and make it entertaining. So I really feel like what the education from you is that, you've got to persevere no matter what's going on if you want to make your goal and you want your business to succeed. And you have to just figure out a way to deal with all the stuff in your life, right?
Yeah, you do. And I think just I know this word has been used a lot out there, just being authentic, being who you are. I mean, on TV, when I was on HSN for the almost 20 years now, I competed against all the movie stars. We had everybody, on HSN's had everybody from, Suzanne Summers, Susan Lucci, Meredith Baxter, you name it, everybody, Keith Urban. And I'm just me. I go on and they all have the star power, but I'm just me. I go on, talk about, how the products are relevant to you. But, as small entrepreneurs who are listening right now, the strength you have is your vulnerability, is your honesty, is your authenticity, and is your, willingness to listen to them and do everything you can, even though maybe you are, you could be a flawed person in many ways. Maybe, you're not, pretty enough, or you're not smart enough, or whatever. But if they know that you're authentic, they can trust you with, whatever information you're giving them, whatever product you're giving them. They will not only buy from you over and over, but they will bring you 10 people, every person. And so when I first went on HSN, I had no following. I did sell to everybody. Like I sold to Harrods London. We have someone from UK, everybody, but nobody knew me on TV. So I had no following. And, I hoped that I could get some people to like me. And then the next time I came on TV, I hoped that the people that bought from me would buy again. Like, if they bought a ring last time, they'd buy a bracelet. But what happened was the second time they all called their mothers or sisters or whoever. And then, so I went from 0 to like 100,000 customers to like, a few million customers within like a 10-year period, because they brought in, from my bio, I've done over $500 million in sales. And all of that, I would say I spent less than $10,000 in advertising or any kind of promotion. It was just all word of mouth.
Well, I can see it. I've watched your show, and you do come across as incredibly genuine and likable. And I think
that's nice. That helps.
That was an authentic statement, I think.
That helps a lot.
I'm not, probably, it's harder for me to buy stuff from people that are just trying to do the hard sell on me. Because I'm
Right.
like, if your product's good enough, it's going to speak for itself. You don't have to force me
Right.
to buy it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And you have just the right touch, I think, on your show.
Well, thank you so much. I really try hard to use, this is for anybody who's listening right now. And even I understand most of you are not going to be on TV selling anything, but if you're selling services, if you're coaching or whatever, people will check you out on your website, right? So your website speaks for you. Try to go back and look at how many times you use the word I or we. So if you're selling like, let's say the hardwood flooring, for example, and your website says, we are the fourth generation, hardwood floor people, and we've done this home and that home, and we specialize in all this stuff. Try to rephrase that as saying, if you've been looking for the perfect hardwood floor for your home, you've come to the right place. And let me explain to you why so if you start to use the word, they feel like you're speaking to them. So like when I'm on TV, a lot of times I would follow someone, because on a jewelry day, we have all the jewelry designers. A jewelry designer before me might come out and say, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy you're tuning into my show. And, I was at the Oscars last week and I wore this item and I got a ton of compliments and I designed this for you. So it's the word I many, many times. But if you said instead the same thing, like, I'm so glad that that you've invited me to your home, and your time is really appreciated, not only by me, but everybody here at this lab. You're the reason why we're here. And I know that you're so happy, to be, you might be looking forward to a Thanksgiving holiday. And for that occasion, you can be the superstar, saving money, looking good, creating memories. How wonderful is that? So use the word I only once in that whole thing.
That's brilliant.
So just think about the word I, because I know a lot of times as small entrepreneurs, you feel like you need to let them know that you matter. You're a big person. You've done all these wonderful things. And you can still do that. But the first few words need to be about them, why they need you.
Yeah. I mean, that is wonderful advice from you, Victoria.
Thank you.
And it was interesting to me when you talked about the other celebrities that were on HSN, and
everybody was.
yeah,
At one time or another.
and but they're celebrities, they're professional
Right.
celebrities, and their job is to entertain and attract, and most of them have spent a lifetime developing those skills.
Right.
And as entrepreneurs, our job is less to be a celebrity, but more to deliver products and services to our customers. And so it seems to me that, I'm never going to compete with Tom Cruise or,
Right.
that's just, they've spent their lives
because
doing what they do.
always on time.
And you should, Richard, because would buy from you over him.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Can you get something here?
Yeah, let her get her a few shots in. And can I need some support here because my wife is being very critical.
Teasing you about your time management
need some
skills.
help. Yeah.
It's all good. We're all late at some phase in life or another, right? So I'm with you in that same boat. So just Victoria, could you just quickly give some entrepreneurs out there some advice or tips for taking their value proposition, like you were alluding to earlier, and kind of getting it down to like a 60-second pitch, right? Whether it be in real life or on TV.
Yeah. So actually, all of that stuff is in my book coming up, $1 Million Passion. But what I want to say is this: times are really tough out there right now, and but all of your big names like Procter and Gamble, Trader Joe's, Burger King. I mean, all these companies started in the middle of a financial meltdown by small entrepreneurs who understood the needs of their next door neighbors or whatever. We're at that point right now, right after COVID and economy that's really uncertain globally. So I feel like right now is a great opportunity for a savvy entrepreneur to really, step up and make some bold decisions that's going to help them. Now, I know it's scary out there. If you have a job out there, or if you just started a company that you don't know where it's going to go and you don't know when to, stop. I have to tell you, failure is a true necessary ingredient for success. I told you before on this interview that when I have those shows where I thought I had, the killer ingredient and the show bombs, that's when you really regroup. And each time, I've only had that happen like 4 times, really big bombs where I've missed it for like $1 million or something. But each time after that, my business like doubled and quadrupled. So I would feel like, and you know what, like look at a baby, like when you look at a baby, it tries to, walk and walk and walk. It runs into everything and cries. We're not supposed to succeed the first time out. Okay. We're supposed to learn how to get up. So every time, the earlier in your life, you end up with a lot of failures, the more blessed you are, because I made some really bad mistakes in the beginning of my career. And look where it got me. I didn't give up. I mean, I learned from it. I learned to be more efficient, smarter, and all those things. And then I just, smarter about those decisions. And at the end, and that's what led me to TV anyway. And then once I got there, your persistence and respect for your competitors, your vendors, and then everybody you work with, you never ever want to sort of like live on your laurels, no matter how big they are. You have to, kind of behave like there is a rainy day tomorrow and, you got to keep evolving. Otherwise you have no purpose. Like you really need to turn that passion into something that you want to do more than anything else. And then maybe you won't do $500 million. Maybe you'll do 5, maybe you'll do 50. Is that enough for you? I mean, for me, that was enough for me. I just wanted to buy myself a Camaro when I started my company.
So-
I got
so
that,
Now you've probably got as many Camaros as you need.
Right.
I just want to follow on something that you mentioned about the recession and it being scary. Really, lots of times recessions can be good times for entrepreneurs
yeah.
because they're leaner,
Mhm.
and you look around and there's things that need to be fixed. And so
Right.
if you can find a solution to that, it's not necessarily a bad time. So I just want to encourage people who are thinking about businesses to follow Victoria's advice and not just give up because you're hearing doom and gloom. It could be a time to really start something special.
So what do you say to those people that are doom and gloom, that like you're going to Hades in a handbasket, you
Yeah.
gotta, what do you say to that?
Whatever you're complaining about, it's easier for you to actually take action. Anything you do today will help you more than complaining. That time you spend complaining and, drawing up your argument about your complaint could be spent improving yourself. So when things get tough, I just kind of hunker down and just really figure out how I'm going to take the next step rather than trying to find 20 people who agree with me how bad things are. And, you find it's interesting when you find the 20 or find 200, so it's just a toxic environment. So, figure out make some decision. And the only other advice I have, this is a huge one, is that any decision you make is better than no decision, because when you wait long enough, you won't have any decisions to make. Your competitors, your customers, everybody has just found a way to adjust. So you make a decision, you don't live in a perfect world. And then you find out, oh my God, that was a wrong decision. At least you know right there and then what to eliminate, right? So I'll just tell you this one story. I was on TV, and this guy actually is going to be the one that's writing the foreword for my book. His name was Bob, and he was the president of the company at HSN at that time. I mean, we were just so excited about my shows, because I've always had that responsibility of like carrying the day. It was just huge pressure. And I had nothing worked. I mean, I felt like nothing worked. So they call this like the walk of shame when nothing is walking and you're like literally going to be taken out of the network or something. I'm walking back, trying to figure out like, and I said to myself, I literally have done every single thing humanly possible. That's the only consolation I had. Like there was not one more thing I could have done better. So I'm walking and Bob walks over. He goes, what happened? I said, I have no idea. Nothing is working. I swear to you, I've done 10,000 different things and I just don't know what happened. And he says, you do know the 10,000 ways you can screw up. So there's very few other ways left. So, and I think that, every president of the company at HS, and I went through like 9 of them, there was one thing that they taught me, and that there was a reason why they were president. And that was like a killer moment. And I thought, you know what? You're right. I know the 10,000 ways it doesn't work. So it's time to go back and, draw things up again. And so, and each time, like I said, I had those bombs, my business doubled and up to quadrupled. Like, and my business was not small. I mean, at that point, it was like a $20 million
Yeah, those are
business
big
per year.
jumps. Yeah, those are big jumps.
So yeah, it's crazy. So
well, Victoria, I am sitting here just absorbing every word, and I'm finding this such a helpful conversation. But unfortunately, we have to get on to some other parts of the show. So we hope that you'll stay with us and lend your wisdom and advice to the rest of us as we proceed here. So
If you want to find out more about Victoria or see her jewelry collection when she's not on TV, you can go to her website, victoriawieck.com. That's VictoriaWieck.com.
we'll be back with more Passage to Profit right after this. This is Passage to Profit, everybody, with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. I mean, Victoria, we love you. I mean, because you do such a fantastic job and everything.
Such an inspiration.
Yeah, inspiration and really helpful. And that's where we want to be with Passage to Profit, right? We want to be helping entrepreneurs. And she comes on and she doesn't talk about herself. She talks about her experiences that help other people. And that is, it's wonderful. And we really appreciate it, Victoria. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So it's time now for Power Move. Kenya, who are we power moving today?
So our power move for today is going to Poujane Fleury. She is an independent publisher, author of 2 books, and she's an inventor. And she's invented the world's first convertible underwear, right? So panty.
What is that?
So you've got my attention. Please explain further.
Yes. So her line seamlessly, it transforms from a panty to a thong, giving women the flexibility and the versatility of 2 panty styles in one. And she's worked really hard to get her company, Luna Lane Clothing Brands, off the ground. She started during the pandemic and worked through personal insecurities and lack of access to meaningful resources. And her faith has been the driving thing that continues to let her thrive. And she's actually looking for wholesale buyers, folks who want to potentially partner with her, and she's running a GoFundMe campaign. So if you go to lunalaneclothing.com, you can find out more information about her and her invention.
Has she done any focus groups?
I'm not sure.
Well, good for her.
Yeah. So anyway, that was, you can cut that, Noah. That was supposed to be a joke, but nobody laughed.
I knew it was. I wasn't sure if I should laugh. I was like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, all right. Well,
A little sensitive subject.
Yeah.
Exactly.
all right.
Yeah,
Sensitive
please.
subject. All right. So anyway, well, that sounds great. We wish her all of the success in the world, and we're glad that sounds like she's taking all the right steps to get her project out there. So Elizabeth.
So yes, I have a startup. It was called Fireside. It's a video directory for small businesses online, and I've changed it to focus on business services because, as every entrepreneur knows, you can't do everything at once. So I really had to zero in some, and there are some unique features to it that I'm not ready to talk about until I do the soft launch. But I've changed the name and I filed the intent to use trademark, so I can talk about that now. And so I've changed it to Blue Streak Directory. After talking to a lot of people and getting a lot of feedback, and I'm in, as I'd said before, a peer advisory group, it just was a better name because Fireside is getting used way too much and it's hard to differentiate. So anyway, that's where I am. I'm
See,
working on my website
like,
now.
I liked Lizzie's list better.
Ugh, well, that sounds like something very strange to me.
Did you
I
guys
know,
do a focus group on that, on the title?
Well,
yeah.
we actually did. We were out with some friends late one night and everybody gave their opinion.
But no, but my peer advisory board, one of the people there came up with Blue Streak, and I've got to tell you, I ran it through by a number of people. There were a couple people that didn't like it, but my final decision, like a lot of my decision rests on the opinion of one person, and that's Kenya, because Kenya is very creative and she's also very tuned into marketing and logos and brands. And she said she gave her stamp of approval, and I had a lot of positive feedback about it.
Yeah, it's a
So-
great name.
And I could get the trademark, it looks like, and the URL was available for Blue Streak Directory. So all those things kind of work together.
Awesome.
Yeah. So now
So-
we're on
We
to
are?
our next presenter, Anita Swetman. No ordinary girl. She's an author, award-winning beauty therapist, and massage therapist to A-listers. Anita, tell us your story.
Oh, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on your show today. Well, I'm a beauty therapist, CEO, and a published author. And obviously, I massage A-list celebrities as part of my work. So I help women to look and feel 10 years younger. And I also inspire introverted people, people are obviously midlife, on how to move out of their comfort zone so that they can reach out for their dream career. Because they don't have to stay stuck where they are. You can become the person you dream of becoming.
So wait a minute, Anita, you're in London or somewhere in England. Where are you?
I am just outside Stratford-on-Avon, Shakespeare's town.
So,
Mhm.
oh, nice. So can I fly over there and get this 10-year younger thing going on?
You certainly can.
Well, the flight will probably put a year on. Traveling
That's true, too.
nowadays is like miserable, but anyway.
So your book is No Ordinary Girl. And in your bio, it says that you were very introverted and shy, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
And you are now on a nationally syndicated radio show in the US. So obviously that's no longer true.
Yeah, that's why I inspire people that if I can do it, then they can do it as well.
So tell us about your journey on that. How did you go from being shy to where you are now? Presumably less shy or not shy.
Yeah, well, I would say now that I'm not shy anymore, but I'm more of a strong introvert. I get very, very nervous, but I've come a long way from when I first started. Because how it all started was when I was about 18, when I lost my dad, and he used to wrap me up in cotton wool. So I would be just too scared to do anything and when I would be around people, I would just shy away from them. I would just like to stay in my own little bubble and not communicate with anybody. And it wasn't until I was about 23 years of age when my elder brother introduced me to network marketing that I learned how to change my mindset with the power of positive thinking and motivational books, and obviously speakers as well, like Jim Rohn. And I listen to Jim Rohn daily now, and I think, oh, I listened to one of his speeches many, many years ago. So over time, it was being ingrained into my subconscious.
So what did he speak about? That what made his information so attractive to you?
Well, little things like, you can do this. You can become the person you dream of becoming. You don't have to stay stuck where you are. And that's all my mantras that I have today.
That's
I think we need to give Victoria a chance to mark on this.
absolutely. Victoria. Hello.
I guess I was a little bit of an introvert too, and I was just when she was going over, her journey going from introvert to um, talking about the positivity and the power of positive thinking. I would just say that it's, I know it's really hard to apply that. Like when you're the person that's, introvert, like I told you earlier, I was throwing up like for almost a year, like every time I had to go on TV, like I didn't want to be on TV. They, when I try to sell something, they said that without you, we don't have a product. So you have to go on TV. So that was like part of the condition on this thing. So I became involuntarily kind of good at being on TV. But I would say that, that positivity is everything.
Mm.
In terms of what the show is about, the entrepreneurs. If you're an entrepreneur today, and as you know, Richard and Elizabeth, I mean, you guys are just so adorable in terms of how you conduct the show, and
Oh, thanks.
I see like how it's easy to not think that you guys have any problems when it comes to getting a show like this to a nationally syndicated show, for example. Like I'm sure you've had crazy ups and downs, and it's hard work.
Yeah.
So in your entrepreneur today, even if you had resources, you're going to face a lot of downs, ups and a little bit of ups along with a bunch of downs. And in those times, if you can unleash your skill set to, positive thinking, it'll help you enormously.
Yeah.
Because, I guess one way you can do it is talk to other people who can, help you positivity. But the other way is you can kind of unleash it yourself. And so I'd be interested in how you coach and in your book and how you teach people to actually kind of bottle that as a skill set and, be able to use it when you need it.
Yeah, so in my book, I talk about what I went through, all my feelings, because I used to procrastinate quite a lot. I kept putting things off. And like you were saying earlier, when you wanted to throw up, I used to physically throw up. I was that nervous to do things. So it just talks about my journey. It talks about points in my life that have got me to where I am today. And it's still evolving, because eventually I will release the second edition of my book, which will talk about my PR journey. And now obviously I'm writing my third book, which is a novel. So I'm learning how to become a novelist, because life is all about learning. You should never, ever stop learning.
That's
I
really-
think, this show, like all of us here, I just love how you've kind of, all of us here, all of your guests today are people that's had to kind of do it the hard way. Like we're not like Harvard educated people with theories. We're people that's had to kind of walk the journey, learn the stuff painfully ourselves. And, and I know a little bit about Kenya's story too. It's just hard work. So when we talk about our journey, how she felt when she felt like throwing up and how she procrastinated because she was afraid to make that decision or dive into something. That should resonate a lot to everybody else who's listening right now, because we were, even if you're successful today, we've all been there. None of us are born with skill set to be magical TV personalities. I'm sure, if you talk to some of the people, even in Hollywood, they might tell you that. So I just think I appreciate your coming on this show and, sharing your journey too. I know that takes some courage as well. So
Thank you.
Absolutely.
If I can just jump on the bandwagon here for a second, really and this I think is playing off with what Victoria has said, and that is that entrepreneurism is a transformational journey,
yeah.
right? I am not the same person that I was 15 years ago, 16 years ago when we first started the law firm. I've had to learn a lot, and it's been an emotional and psychological process, if for me to get to wherever I happen to be right
Right.
now.
He doesn't have a boss to get mad at anymore. So he gets mad at opposing
Well-
counsel. In the backyard. pretty funny. But Kenya hasn't had a chance to pitch in here.
Well,
So.
yeah, but I just want to finish what I was saying,
Okay,
and that
sorry.
it is a transformational journey,
It
and you do
is.
change, and what you learn is that you can change, and that the
Right.
things that you were unhappy about with yourself can you can improve on those things, and you can be more of who you want to be, and entrepreneurism is a route to that. And so, yes,
Yeah.
Kenya, please.
Yeah, no, I think all great points, and we're all a work in progress, and none of us have arrived. That's for sure. But Anita, I like what you're doing with the content that you're building, because you're basically using your life's experiences and life journeys and turning them into lessons for people. And I feel like we learn the best that way, right? There's really no booklet to life. So what would you say is the next phase of what you want to teach people and how you want to lead them? What does that look like?
Yeah, well, what it looks like is myself being an ordinary girl. I've done a lot of celebrity work, but I myself am not a celebrity. And I went into celebrity work to get myself out there, to elevate my status. I won many, many awards. And I think I want to encourage people that it doesn't matter where you've been from, your background, you can change your life. You don't have to stay stuck where you are. I had learning difficulties when I was at school. I did manage to get all my grades and leave school, but I was in a corporate pharmacy career for most of my life, but it wasn't my calling. It wasn't really something that I wanted to do. And it wasn't until I had a wake-up call, which I talk about in my book, that it actually made me realize that if you keep going the way you're going to stay stuck where you are for the rest of your life. And it took me a long time to realize the only person that could change my life was me, nobody else. So I want to help and inspire people that with my journey, that they can do it too. You know, they don't have to stay stuck where they are.
I think that's excellent. And I think that sharing your story, we were talking about that last week. And it was funny, Victoria brought up authenticity because we talked about that last week as well. Authenticity in your marketing, because that's what people are looking for now. But we also, I think, talked about this last week, that so many people think they're the only ones who ever went through this. Right. And when somebody successful shares their story, they're like, oh, maybe I can do it too. Right.
Right. For sure. I think, I think with Anita, the vulnerability, I mean, I think what you just shared, you're just sharing, that's vulnerable. Like you're sharing something that's very personal to you, that I'm sure still has painful moments when you share every single time you share it. And I think that I know that you guys are probably, nearing my age. You're not like Kenya's age. She's 19.
No, I'm not, but thank you.
So basically,
we had to get permission from her parents to put her on the radio.
Exactly. So, but here's the thing, like we went through a period like back in the 80s and 90s, people, your general public, globally trusted those household brands, like IBM, Procter and Gamble, brands like this, McDonald's. I mean, look at where they are today. They're still going, but um, most of us used to consume coffee, for example, from McDonald's or Denny's or wherever. And then here comes the little Starbucks that, starts out with 2 teachers with $1,000 in their pocket. And so I think that if you're a dreamer and you can share your vulnerability, your authenticity, the whole package, what brought you to who you are, and you're still not perfect. I'm not, none of us are. And we don't pretend to be. I think the public really wants to support people like you because there is a little piece of them in your story. So I think that, if you get a really great PR person like Kenya or, someone like that, that could be an amazing way that you can help other people. If you can help 1 or 2, or, your story can help a lot of people, yourself first, but obviously, like Elizabeth said, there is a little bit of all of us in the story you just shared.
Yes, that's excellent. We're getting to the end of this segment, but you can find Anita at her website, Anita Swetman, SWETMAN.com. Her book is No Ordinary Girl. And I'm assuming you're taking clients for beauty therapy and massage therapy still over there in England. Is that right?
Yes, I am. Yes, I built up my business from scratch, from absolutely nothing whilst I was still working full time in a career. I went back to college to learn my craft. And I'm really, really proud of the lives I'm changing, obviously, with the treatments, because it's not just superficial, it's making people feel good on the inside and it shines on the outside.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, yeah, so please look for Anita, and this has just been really fun. So now we're on to our next presenter, Andrew Strafaci, and I love this. His company is Cyndrom, Cyndrom, and he's a Jersey Shore guy, and he is making clothes that are going to make you look like really cool. So, welcome, Andrew. Tell us all about what you're doing.
Sure. Thank you for having me. And so correct, we started as a Jersey Shore brand, but since the pandemic, the Cyndrom has evolved, and we're now in growing national action sports label. And the essence of it began as growing up by the shore, being an avid skateboarder, getting into snowboarding and surfing, and wanting to keep my life involved in that, though there was no likelihood I'd ever be a pro in any of those things. But I had a knack for business and for art. And I developed actually at 17, and now I'm 32. So it's been a long journey. The logo, and sort of had a vision that this could turn into something tactile and a real brand. And I've spent this time through college and graduate school and beyond, always keeping my life tailored towards growing this business. And most recently, I'm a graduate of Rutgers University, and I was awarded their business plan competition first prize and given a grant to take this brand as far as it can go. And with that, I know I came in with one of my hoodies, one of our older products, but now we're expanding into more of technical products for board riders everywhere in snowboarding and surfing, and expanding across New Jersey and nationally into different local shops. And then our online store is growing. So this is very much a big transition period where I'm going from one-man operation of doing just trying to get the name out there, to truly building into a business and entering trade shows and taking it to the level where it could become self-sufficient. And for me, because I do juggle this with a full-time job, then as well as on its own, to see how far it can go.
Congratulations. So, in my notes here, it says you have hats, hoodies, sweatshirts, and t-shirts, and it's born from a love of action sports. So, what's so special about your clothes? Why do people buy them?
I think, well, at first it was quality and comfort. I do take the extra step, and I've done a lot of studying of clothing manufacturing and of different designs and of materials to make sure that the products that are being purchased, they're durable enough for board riders, and they're also comfortable enough for everyday people that also think the products look cool and want to wear them themselves. As time has gone on, it's about 4 years of doing this steadily. I think it's the brand's message to people who really love these sports. The action sports have been around since the 60s on a large scale. So it's a multi-generational fan base. And now you even have people in their 30s to 40s. They now have kids that they're introducing to these sports that they love growing up. And a lot of our customer base seems to be parents that have kids that they want to share their hobbies with. And Cyndrom has managed to capture that balance of nostalgia with their passion for their sports that have continued to this day, and a way for the whole family to kind of get involved and enjoy action sports.
Yeah, that sounds great. I wish my parents had let me enjoy action sports, because when I was young, I wanted to have a go-kart and they wouldn't let me do it. So obviously parents nowadays are much more willing, I guess, to donate the skateboard and then the helmet, I guess, and let their kids have some fun. So I definitely down for that.
So do you have clothes for kids and women and men all?
Yeah, so we have we have all of our clothes are unisex, and most of our hats go small enough for kids. Our smallest t-shirt sizes have been good enough for children. We haven't gone too small to have specific infant size to toddler. That market hasn't been as big, but
Right.
Yeah,
mostly with
you really don't want the 3-year-olds out there on the skateboards in the street, right? And that
no, but
doesn't sound
Or surfing in the
productive.
ocean.
you'd be surprised how young they get. But yeah, we're
Yeah.
So
yeah.
what's amazing to me though is it doesn't really sound like you've had much experience in the in the clothing business when you started this. Did you have people in your family who had this kind of experience or background, or are you self-taught?
Not in mostly self-taught. So I have my family has a lot of experience in business and entrepreneurship, and going back to when my family first came to America. But in clothing, I'd be the first one to sort of enter that area. But I've relied a lot on my education to
Yeah.
support that.
Well, Rutgers is a great university.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Victoria, I'm sure you have many pearls of wisdom that you could share with Andrew because you took jewelry and made it into this huge business.
Yeah, jewelry and apparel are very, very close cousins in terms of how they're merchandised, how they're sold. So I'm hearing that you have an emotional connection, to your brand has an emotional connection, and you're trying to really message that. But just listening to what you were saying, though, and I just don't hate me for saying this. I'm trying to save you money and time. You really need to focus on what your key products are, meaning that whether it could be your hoodie or whatever. If you try to go and branch out to too many things, what's going to happen is you literally will end up with a lot of inventory that has to change all the time. So if you figure out what you're going to find out when you're in this business, that about 80% of your dollars are going to come from 20% of your products. So it's the 80-20 rule. So identify those 20% early on. And then you can, so let's say your hoodie is like, I'm just making this up. Let's say the striped hoodie is the core product that everybody comes to you, and that's the thing that they buy from you. They come to you for that, and they say, you know what, I see this on whoever, and I want to buy this. Then you have an opportunity to add on a hat, socks, gloves, or a t-shirt that goes underneath it. So that's what we call the upsells and downsells. So it's basically, 15% of American public, I didn't pick that number out of a hat. It's a pretty documented fact. If you give them matching items, 15% of them will buy it without thinking about it. So if you do a hoodie, a striped hoodie, and you offer them like a black tee to go with the black stripes and then a white tee, 15% of them will automatically buy it. And you can actually charge them more money. That's where you can actually make more money because they'll buy it no matter what. So understand that 80-20 rule. Make sure that your core product is really nailed in, and you're basically, that's where your 80% of your focus should be. Then, and make sure you're never out of it. Like years ago when I used to work retail, I was in the Beverly Center store. In that particular store, like a lot of Hollywood people are out there, and it was like the department manager or the store manager used to want to make sure that everything's always stocked. I go in there and I said, you know what? We're always out of men's black slacks that are size 30, 28, 30, 32. And when we did an analysis, we found out that 80% of our sales were in those sizes in that particular demographic. So once we found out that, we also found out that their shirt sizes were like 14 and a half. So everything else could be out of stock. But those items, and she ended up, actually, my boss ended up operating the highest revenue store with 100,000 square feet less. So think about that. So, you got to really drive that business. And, you go to MBA school, they don't really teach you real life lessons like this. So, just if you're an entrepreneur, you really have to focus your efforts, because all you have is your expertise and your time and a little bit of resources. So if you're going to waste your time, you want to make sure that some things have to go, and those things that have to go are things that are ancillary that may or may not hit. So.
Wow, that's that's really great information. And Do you think having a mentor helps? I mean, did you ever
Oh,
have
yeah.
any mentors
Yeah,
when
for
you
sure.
were? Yeah.
I didn't have mentors because I was always breaking ground. You know, when I first started my jewelry company, everybody told me, for example, all the bracelets were in size 7 inches. And I found out that about 30% of American women actually wear size 8 bracelets. And so when I offered, you know, but when you do that, you don't just go and offer them, you know, a lot. You just test it a little bit. So here's the other thing I'll say is that you really need to learn the art of testing. So if your hoodie is working really well, okay, and then you want to offer them a white shirt and a black shirt, you want to make sure that that fit for the shirt is, you know, because white and black, all they're going to care about is how it fits you, how, you know, if you want it long, short. So, you know, you might want to offer them at a different price point, but you buy them very short. If you're buying 200, you know, hoodies, you're going to test the white shirt and a black shirt, maybe, and maybe you'll do a pop color, do a basics, and then you'll do a pop red color or something like that. And you might want to order a dozen. So your risk is so low in that, you know, regard. So when you find out you order white and black and pop red, and you find out you're selling all 12 red shirts like that, you go, wow, like I didn't expect that, but it sold like crazy. So maybe next time I'll order 24 of that and see if it goes just as fast. So make sure that you test everything you're going to spend your money on before. And here's the other thing too, is like in my book, actually, I talk about how you launch your product. There is when you launch when you're launching a new collection or anything like that. Instead of thinking about this as a launch, think about this as like a job interview. You know, when you go to a job interview, you're going to research a lot about the company, who's interviewing you. Then you actually show up to the interview. Then you do a follow-up interview, right, to get the job. It's the same thing with your you know, basically if you are next to like a country club or who your ideal target market is, do a, you know, do the t-shirt and ask them, you know, hey, I'm trying to launch this, and you know, you can buy it for, I don't know, give it to them at a cost and see which one they would actually prefer if the cost was the same, because that's really low expense. This is how I was able to get away with no advertising, because I was able to always test before. But I would do, you know, test, and then once they buy it cheaply and they love it, and they're going to talk to 20 people. So by the time you actually launch it, you got some like sales banked in already.
Wow, that's great advice. Andrew, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, and it's excellent advice. Thank you, Victoria. And some of it has already been in practice to date for Cyndrom. One of the main things that I've done to get from, you know, starting out with just a few designs and a couple of products to here is a heavy focus on pop-up shops around well, locally in my home area, but we try to get as far away as possible, but finding the target market where they are, meeting them face to face and testing products. And it's been definitely an entrepreneurial adventure with the different places we've gone and how I've set up shop in venues and events that have given me a whole wide range of people to meet. But it has definitely helped not only in seeing which products work the best and what people are looking for, but also who the customer is and
why they buy it, why they
right,
sometimes
and why they're buying it. Yep.
fabric,
So
and sometimes it's the message. So, you know, I think that's really important. I mean, if you email me offline, I'm more than
Absolutely.
happy to refer you to other people that's gone through your journey. They're now doing hundreds of millions of dollars just online. So
Absolutely.
wow,
Thank you.
that's really nice. So what do you sell out of?
Our biggest product is our hats. So I didn't feel it was necessary. I'm inside, so I didn't think it'd be weird to wear a hat inside and on the camera here, but I have one
Yeah, hold
nearby.
one up because we put this on our YouTube channel, even though it's a
Sure.
radio show.
So
Oh,
during the
that's pretty
pandemic,
cool.
yeah, hopefully it's not coming up mirrored on my camera,
Yes,
but
perfect.
No.
that's good.
so this was just during the pandemic. I was coming up with small products to kind of just keep the business going. My pop-up shops had completely gone kaput. There were no more events being held at during 2020, and the stores that I was in were having a bit of a harder time. So things had slowed, and I wanted to grow our online market. And one of the things I taught myself to sew to kind of get more ways and come up with more products. And I started with beanies and came up with this patch. And it was such a simple design. And it goes to show you really don't know what will catch on and what won't. I hand drew and created the patch, and it was inspired by, I have a couple of records. I have a record player in my workshop, and there's a Grateful Dead album that I listen to a lot when I'm working. And this was and it was inspired by the artwork on there. And it just took off organically through our social media. And from there, they asked, it was on a beanie initially. And I do have one. It's actually one of the last of the beanies. I have another order coming through. And it started as just a simple black or beige offered beanie. And they wanted it in a summer version. And this one product boosted our sales 10, 20 fold, and kind of took this from being, just a Monmouth County Shore regional brand to a whole host of national customers. We opened up a new market with snowboarders, which, Cyndrom, you could tell by the logo, is very ocean themed. And we really started in a surfing community, and it's grown into the snow market. They really caught on with some of the designs, and we've even picked up influencers, people that just like the products online and wanted to take pictures. They'll have their product. I'll send one to them. They'll be out, and we have kids in Breckenridge and another out in northern New Mexico that just goes riding with them, sends back photos, things like that. So it's opened up a whole world just by one product.
That's excellent. We have to end this segment, unfortunately. I'm going to tease our listeners here. You're going to have to go to Andrew's website or to our YouTube channel, but I would suggest you go to his website, cyndrom.com, to see this very cool hat that everybody loves. And maybe you even want to buy one for yourself or somebody that you know. Anyway.
It is the holiday season upon us, so
yes,
now is the perfect time.
So listeners, you are listening to Passage to Profit, Road to Entrepreneurship with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. Our special guest today, Victoria Wieck, who is a jewelry designer and has been on TV forever selling her products and really knows a lot about entrepreneurism. And she has just been a wealth of knowledge for us today. If you missed any of it, of course, our podcast is out tomorrow, but don't go away. We still have a little bit of the show left, and we'll be right back.
So now it's time for Noah's retrospective. Noah Fleischman is our producer here at Passage to Profit, and he has a way of putting his best memories in perspective.
A good friend of mine can't eat bread. It's a shame. She loves bread. But you know what? Doesn't keep her from getting up early on Sunday mornings, going down to the bakery, talking to the folks behind the counter, smelling the bread, chatting it up with the customers, maybe fondling a loaf or two. Fills her need. I have the same relationship. Not with bread, with records. Music has been a part of my life since the very beginning. I listen to it now. MP3s, digital downloads, compact discs. Can't say I've owned an actual record player, though, in quite some many years. But I still love to traipse into those used record shops and hold the records, be near them, remember where I was as a kid when I first got them. It's a beautiful thing. Ever heard of Record Store Day? There's a lot of these little shops in operation now, and they're great. What keeps these folks coming in, though? Not everybody's a record player owner nowadays. We are a tactile people in a virtual world. That means that we need that genuine article, that connection, that bridge that keeps us together with the actual element of where we were at one time in our lives. It's very important because as humans, as virtual as we get, we need to be able to keep it real.
Welcome back, everybody. Passage to Profit. I think it's been a really cool show. Having Victoria here makes all the difference.
She always does such a great job.
And also the presenters. I think we're both amazing. Hearing their stories and their journeys is always inspiring to me. So, but now it's time for Elizabeth's question.
Well, Richard came up with this question. I think I finally know what I'm going to say. So the question is, what movie best describes you? And we're going to start with Victoria.
That was a hard one, but I'm going to go with Forrest Gump.
Really?
Life is like a box of
That's such a
chocolates.
humble movie. And really, but yeah, I can kind of say, well, why Forrest Gump?
Well, as you know, my story, I came here to America not speaking one word of English, like I was deer in the headlights. So I've had to learn the new culture. Making, I had no friends. When you can't speak English, you have no friends. So you don't know anything, and you feel like you're dumb and you have nothing. But you always have to do the right thing, and you always have to do what you can to improve yourself. And my favorite line in that movie is when his mother, who loves him unconditionally, at some point she says something like, "Life is a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get." So in my life, I never thought I could actually own my business. I just wanted to have a job, have a Camaro, pay my rent. Then I ended up starting a company, and against all odds, it actually kind of became successful, kind of like a Bubba Gum strip or something. And then no matter, and then he goes out and does, he runs. So I feel like it's a real humble story of a person who didn't have a lot going on, but ended up impacting a lot of people. And so I think that was just my story. So yeah, Forrest Gump.
I think that's a great movie, and it sounds like a movie that you would like. So
Yes. Yeah, definitely. So Anita, what about you?
Well, I didn't have to think too hard about this because this is one of my favorite movies back in the 80s, which is Field of Dreams, which stars Kevin Costner. And I love that film because even though he didn't know, he just trusted his voice, his inner voice. He was about to go bankrupt. He just trusted that this was his path to build this baseball field and that people would come, obviously from miles around, to see this field. And that is part really of what my journey is about. I had a vision of setting up my business, but I didn't know how or where I was going to get there. I didn't even know how to become a beauty therapist. I was a pharmacy technician, a registered pharmacy technician. I had no knowledge of building a business, being a beauty therapist. And now I had no idea about how to become an author, but I learned my craft and I just trusted my vision that I would find a way and build it up to a successful business. So yeah, that film resonates with me.
Excellent. Andrew, what about you?
I was torn between two, but I'm going to go with one of my old favorites, My Cousin Vinny. And
That makes total sense.
it is a longtime favorite of mine, and for multiple reasons. One, I didn't touch on this during the interview to take away from it, but my day job is I'm a lawyer, and but also so that was one of my inspirations to becoming one. But also Vinny in the movie, he takes his he's almost like a fish out of water, but it doesn't matter. He brings his flair to new situations and solves the problems that way. And also being an Italian originating from New York, it's easy to bring a similar flair to the problems in my life like he did. So I do love that movie. I'll watch it anytime it's on.
I know
it's
we
great
love
that
that
you bring
too.
that up, but that's not like a family movie for us. It's like every holiday when we get together, we always watch My Cousin Vinny. So I think I've got most of the lines of that movie memorized. So here we are, man. Yeah, we're connecting on this one.
Hey guys, can I say something for all the three of you who are the lawyers, not the three of you, but the two of you who are lawyers?
Of
Yeah.
course.
That did you know that lawyers make lawyers at least likely to succeed in entrepreneurship?
Oh, really?
Really?
Didn't know
That
that.
doesn't surprise me, but I guess we're cut from different bolts of cloth, aren't we?
Yeah,
Andrew?
because you're so used to being so thorough, right? Because in entrepreneurship, you can't have every single piece of fact there in front of you, and your job is to minimize risks for so you don't do really well with risks. That's what other lawyers have told me. So anyway, it's supposedly that they don't like entrepreneurship because of what they know. That if the better lawyer you are, the less likely you are to take risks for yourself or to your clients. In entrepreneurship, it's a lot about taking the right risks with less than perfect information.
Right. Well, I would say though that That's an interesting comment. I would only say that I relate to entrepreneurs better because I am one.
'Cause you're
And-
weird. I'm kidding. Only kidding.
and so over the years I've learned about risks and what are the better ones and what are the bad ones, and through personal experience as a business owner as well as a practicing attorney. So but I can see that. I can definitely see a lot of attorneys just they want to follow the rules, and
Yeah.
so-
But Richard, the good news is that the few that do go the entrepreneurship route, they do really well. They make, they're very used to looking at a bunch of facts and figuring out. They're very. I didn't realize the lawyers could be very, very creative.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, it helps if you have a spouse who's also creative. So
absolutely.
that would be Elizabeth, by the way. So my favorite movie is I kind of struggled with this one. At first I was going to try to be funny, but then I realized like that's not always the best thing to do. So I think Wizard of Oz is the movie I relate to because I'm partially schizophrenic in that, the courage and the heart and all of those things. I like the way that it just kind of breaks those characteristics. And then, Dorothy, I don't really identify with Dorothy, but I also admire how she's on this journey, right? And just like I feel like I'm on this journey. And then it feels like the further I go in the journey, the more likely I am to meet the Wizard of Oz, who's really tries to look much bigger than he really is. And along that journey, you meet a lot of people who are trying to create that impression. So that's what Wizard of Oz, I think it's my vote.
I love
Well,
that. Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I really am struggling with this one. There are a lot of movies I could say. I mean, I could say My Cousin Vinny because I am married to a lawyer and I have to constantly try to convince him that I'm right about things. And
She has to argue pretty hard sometimes, but
Um, I mean, there are just so many good movies out there, and I love the Star Wars movies, all of them,
oh yeah,
because it's these people fighting this seemingly impossible thing to fight, but they're doing it for all the right reason, and they get all these people together and they build a community, and they even get like the Wookiees and everything,
right.
And
Good against evil.
and they overcome this horrible force that is keeping everybody down, and just through courage and grit and like hardly any good weapons or anything. So
Yeah, I know they're bootstrapping.
they're
So.
bootstrapped. Yes. So there we have it.
There we have it. So I think we need to wind things down now. So why don't we do the closing credits?
Okay, so I would like to go through everybody's websites one more time in case you missed them. But as you know, this will be on our podcast tomorrow. So if you missed any of it, really, there were some golden nuggets of advice in this show that you really should go back and listen to. But we had Victoria Wieck as our guest, and her website is victoriawick, WIECK.com. But you can also catch her on ShopHQ. And she has a new book coming out, and she's got a $1 Million Passion podcast. So you can find her in many different places. Then we had Anita Swetman.
And I would just punctuate that by saying the amazing Victoria Wieck.
Yes, the incredible Victoria Wieck. Yes. And then Anita Swetman with her book, No Ordinary Girl. And you can find her at AnitaSwetman.com, Anita, SWETMAN.com. If you're in England, she is a national multi-gold award-winning beauty therapist and massage therapist to A-listers, and she is taking clients. So I'm considering flying over there just to check it out.
Passage to Profit is actually one of the more popular business podcasts in England. So it's
Over there then.
hopefully you can help us expand our audience. And she really is no ordinary girl. I mean, she's made a great journey and deserves a lot of credit. So
Right.
Oh,
and-
thank you.
Yeah, I don't really want a beauty therapist who's like had their life together, their whole life, like been born with a golden spoon in their mouth. And
There
they're
you
looking at
go.
me like, "Ugh, you need help, girl."
You need a,
Not
you need
real
a,
person.
you need a
authentic
human
person.
beauty
Yes, a
therapist.
human. And then we had Andrew Strafaci with Cyndrom, CYNDROM.com. And you have to go to his website to see his hats because they are very cool. He has other sportswear too, and it's for the whole family, and people just love it. So go check out Andrew's website.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll be all wearing your caps soon, Andrew. So we have our holidays coming up, and I already know what's on my list. So
Yes, we like to wear baseball caps around our house.
it hides my bald spot. So we need to sign off for this week, but we'll return to the station next week with another episode of Passage to Profit. Before we go, I'd like to thank the Passage to Profit team, Noah Fleischman, our producer, Alicia Morrissey, our program director, and Mark Wilson, our syndication manager. Our podcast can be found tomorrow. Anywhere you find your podcast, just look for the Passage to Profit show. And don't forget to like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And remember, while the information provided during this program is believed to be correct, never take a legal step without checking with your legal professional. That's it. And we'll be back next week with another episode of Passage to Profit.